Hello everyone, Medley20 here, and welcome back to Art Talk. Today I'll be discussing the big scary topic of drawing from observation. Sorry in advance if I sound a little bit stuffy, I'm just getting over a cold, but I really wanted to make this video. So, a lot of people associate drawing from observation with drawing still life. Like, how boring can you get? Like, nobody wants to draw spheres and boxes and vases and pieces of fruit. That's not fun. Like, wouldn't you rather draw, like, your favorite characters from cartoons and video games and shit? Well, here's the secret. It doesn't have to be boring. You can draw from observation and still draw all your favorite things. It just means you have to be a little bit creative. A lot of people think that drawing from observation means that you have to draw hyper-realistically, like photorealistically. And you don't have to make hyper-realistic drawings that look like photographs, but it's still hugely important to recognize how things work in real life. Cartoon characters are just exaggerations of realism, and it's important to know what the rules of realism are before you can exaggerate them. So here's a question, should you only draw from observation? And the answer is hell no. It's important to be able to draw from your own head as well, because knowing only how to draw from observation will limit the amount of stuff you can draw. But this really isn't an excuse to neglect observational drawing, because drawing from observation is like eating your vegetables. Sure, there's lots of other options, but drawing from observation will help you develop into a much stronger artist, and you won't do yourself any favors from avoiding it. You can literally go for years and years and years without drawing from observation, and you still won't know how to draw a proper goddamn hand. Look at these fucking sausage fingers. Nobody has sausage fingers. Okay, so how do you draw from observation? Well, first off, it's important to recognize that there's two basic kinds of drawing symbolically and drawing from observation. If you've just drawn from your head up to this point, you're probably drawing symbolically. That is, when you're drawing a face, you're not drawing an actual face, you're drawing a symbol for a face. Take a look at this. Have you ever seen someone with a face that actually looks like this in real life? Now, it's important to try to let go of symbols, at least initially. Symbols create some misconceptions about the shape of the subjects that you'll want to draw. For example, eyes aren't actually almond shaped, they're actually much more complex in shape. And pupils aren't just slapped on in the middle of the eyeball, they're actually concave and sunk a little bit into the surface of the eye. Is there a time and a place for symbols? Absolutely. You don't want to always go back to drawing those same symbols, though. The more you draw observationally, the more you'll get a grasp for how things are constructed, and the more believable, appealing symbols you'll create. When you're drawing quick, cartoony stuff, symbols are absolutely the way to go. But how do you stop drawing symbolically? Well, here's a fun exercise that you can do that will help you shift your brain from thinking symbolically to thinking observationally. Look at a subject from life or from a photograph. Try to draw your subject all in one stroke, but do not look at your paper. Take your time and try to draw as many details and nuances in your drawing as you can. This is called blind contour drawing, and it'll help you focus more on the task of drawing rather than the outcome. Don't worry about making it look pretty. You're not looking at your paper anyway, so it's pretty much guaranteed to look like shit. Focus more on how you're observing your subject and how your eye coordinates with your drawing hand. And actually, sometimes when you look back at these blind contour drawings, you'll notice that the line quality itself, it's actually pretty good. Because you get all these little nuances and stuff that you don't normally get in other drawings. Now that we've got the whole issue of symbolic drawing out of the way, we'll want to actually try drawing from observation. When drawing in general, you'll always want to work from big to small and from general to specific. First, try to see how your subject is proportioned in general. Is it wider than it is tall? Is it taller than it is wide? Is its height and width roughly about the same? Next, you'll want to do a rough gesture of your subject. Don't worry about being totally exact, you just want to be able to catch the general angles and movement found in your piece. Keep your gestures loose so the end product doesn't look stiff. Break your subject down into general shapes and then use them as a framework for the later steps in your drawing. For example, people often use boxes to represent torsos and cylinders to represent limbs. On a side note, be sure to practice drawing solid shapes like boxes and cylinders because it'll help your drawing immensely. Next, look for landmarks. Do you see any areas in your drawing that line up with each other? What are the relative angles that you see? Try to find relationships between, different parts that are completely unrelated to each other. Instead of finding relationships between your right hand and your right elbow, try to find, how the right hand lines up with the left knee, or, I don't know, the nose or something. It'll make it easier to measure your proportions a little bit more correctly, because you're not looking for a preconceived relationship already. Try to find negative shapes as well. Drawing a hand in an odd pose is hard because you already have a preconceived notion of how hands are supposed to look, and this can harm your drawing. Instead, try to draw the space around the hand or between the fingers. This will help you keep your drawing honestly observed and will eliminate a lot of frustration in your drawing. So, okay, that helps with outlines and contours and all, but what about shading? Basically, you do the same thing that you've been doing, but now you're looking at light and shadow shapes instead of the shape of, say, a person. Pay attention to where the shadows are, what the shapes look like, what their value or darkness and lightness is relative to nearby areas, and most importantly, the edge quality of your shadows and highlights. So, wait. What's edge quality? A common mistake among beginning artists is they make all their shadows look fuzzy. Yes, fuzzy shadows exist, but making all your shadows fuzzy is one of the easiest ways to turn a good drawing into a drawing that looks really fake and artificial. Shadows have different kinds of edges. A form shadow, or a shadow that is caused by the bulginess of a form being wrapped around itself, will typically look soft. The larger the form, the softer the edge. On the other hand, a cast shadow, or a shadow that is caused by a foreign object blocking a light source, will look sharp and then soften up as the shadow becomes farther away from the object that's casting it. Having trouble finding your shadow shapes? Squint! And this doesn't mean take off your glasses or defocus your eyes. This means put on your best Clint Eastwood face and stare that motherfucker down. Squinting helps reduce the number of values you see, which makes it much easier to simplify shadow shapes into their basic forms. Don't worry about getting every single little detail. Oftentimes you'll be able to create a convincing drawing even with just 2 or 3 basic values. So how do you kill 2 birds with 1 stone and have fun while drawing from observation? Well, you can start by doing portraits of your favorite actors and actresses. Pick a photograph that has good light and dark values with clear shadow shapes, and try to imitate it. Don't worry about making it look bad. They probably won't see your drawing anyway, so you can make them look as ugly as you want, and you won't be hurting anyone's feelings. Don't have any favorite actors or actresses? Draw a friend. It really helps if you're comfortable enough with this friend that you're cool with playful insults like, "Sup, loser?" or "Holy shit, you suck at this game, bro." That way you can be like, "Hey, I'm gonna try and draw you, but I'm probably gonna draw you really ugly," and they'll be cool with it. Still don't want to draw people you know? Draw yourself. Try not to be self-conscious about your work. Try to draw honestly. Okay, so how do you draw your favorite characters, but still draw from observation? Well, that's an easy one. Look for photos that would fit your favorite character well, and then change it to make it look like your character. See this photograph of Stephen Colbert? Add some medic stuff, and bam, he's a medic! You see this Michelangelo painting of the creation of Adam? Bam, now he's Muse-Elk! Hell, you can just straight up use official artwork as reference for your own drawings. Just try to avoid tracing at this stage. It doesn't really teach you anything past basic line control. Try to understand why things look the way they do before you start placing lines, and also try not to use bad art as reference, because you'll just end up copying that artist's mistakes. Also bear in mind that while observational drawing will help you improve, just 1 or 2 drawings by themselves won't do much. Drawing only 1 observational piece and expecting to improve by leaps and bounds is like a fat guy taking just 1 jog and expecting to become slim and trim by the time they get home. You have to be persistent and draw often to really understand and get the basic substance of art. That's it for today. Sorry again about my voice. I just really hate catching colds because it forces me to put off projects like this. And also sorry this video was so long. I wanted to cover as much of the bare basics of observational drawing without getting too overboard. I'll go back and do a more in-depth video on some of the topics that I covered here later in the future, but until then, be good to yourself and be good to others, and remember that I love you guys. See you later!